A football star at the top of his game, a woman who refused to stay silent, and a disappearance that shocked an entire country, because this story is darker than it looks. In Brazil, football is more than just a game. It's hope. It's escape. And for a man like Bruno Fernandes de Souza, it was everything. He had fought his way up from nothing. Long training sessions, pressure, competition, all of it paid off. Now he was standing in goal for Flamengo, one of the biggest clubs in the country. Stadiums packed with fans chanting his name. Cameras flashing. People recognizing him everywhere he went. He wasn't just a player anymore. He was a star. And with that came a lifestyle. Money flowing in, nights out, women drawn to him, friends always around. The kind of life most people only dream about. But behind all that noise, there was something else quietly building. A situation he couldn't control. Her name was Eliza Samudio. She wasn't intimidated by him. That's what made her different. Where others saw fame, she saw a man. And when they got involved, it didn't feel like a casual thing. There was chemistry. There was energy. The kind that pulls two people together quickly. But relationships like that, they don't always stay simple. Because at some point, Eliza became pregnant. And everything changed. For Eliza, this wasn't just news. It was reality. Something she had to face head on. She believed Bruno would step up, that he would take responsibility, maybe even build something real out of it. But Bruno didn't see it that way. To him, this wasn't a blessing. It was a threat to his image, his career, his lifestyle. He started distancing himself. Phone calls became shorter, then less frequent, then ignored completely. Messages left unread, plans canceled, conversations avoided. But Eliza wasn't someone who would just disappear quietly. She pushed. She called him out. She demanded answers. She wanted recognition, not just for herself, but for the child. And when that didn't work, she started making noise, talking to people, letting others know what was going on, bringing attention to something Bruno desperately wanted hidden. That's when tension started rising. Every interaction between them became heavier. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into hostility. Bruno felt cornered, and the more pressure Eliza applied, the more his mindset began to change. At first, he thought he could ignore the situation. Then he thought he could control it. But slowly, that thinking shifted into something else entirely, something darker. Because instead of asking, "How do I fix this?" Bruno started asking a different question. "How do I make this go away?" And that's when Bruno begins involving other people. Not openly at first, just quiet conversations, testing reactions, seeing who is loyal enough to listen and not question. People he trusts, people who look up to him, people who wouldn't easily say no. Then the conversations become more direct, more serious. No jokes, no ambiguity, just intention. Some of them hesitate. Some don't fully understand what they're stepping into. But Bruno is convincing, calm, certain, and slowly a plan forms. Eliza receives a message. It's simple, neutral, nothing alarming, an invitation to come over, to talk, to settle things. And for a moment, it feels like progress. Like maybe this situation is finally about to end the right way. So she goes. She arrives expecting a conversation, closure maybe. But the moment she steps into that space, something feels off. Too many unfamiliar faces, too much silence, too little warmth. She looks around trying to read the room, trying to understand what's happening. And then it hits her. This isn't what she thought it was. The tone shifts quickly, voices become firm, movements become controlled. She's no longer free to just leave. The situation tightens around her. And in that moment, confusion turns into fear. What follows isn't a sudden explosion. It's a controlled situation. Planned, deliberate. She's overpowered, restrained, silenced. Not because of a sudden argument, but because this outcome had already been decided before she even arrived. Eliza is gone. And from that moment on, everything becomes about making sure no one finds out what really happened. After Eliza disappears, life doesn't stop, at least not on the surface. Bruno continues showing up to training. He interacts with teammates. He moves through his daily routine like nothing has changed. But beneath that surface, everything is unstable, because situations like this don't stay hidden forever, especially when multiple people are involved, and especially when someone has completely vanished. Her family notices first. The silence isn't normal. No calls, no updates, no explanation. They start reaching out, asking questions, trying to piece together her last movements. Friends do the same. And slowly, attention begins to build. Authorities get involved. At first, it's a missing person case. Routine questions. Where was she last seen? Who was she with? What was she doing? But very quickly, one name keeps coming up. Bruno. The connection is obvious, the history is known, and investigators begin focusing on him. Meanwhile, pressure starts affecting the people involved, because not everyone handles guilt the same way. Not everyone can stay quiet under questioning. Small details begin slipping, stories don't align, timelines don't match perfectly, and investigators notice. They push harder, ask sharper questions, revisit conversations, and eventually someone cracks. It doesn't take much. Just one person breaking the silence is enough to start unraveling everything. Once that happens, the entire structure collapses. What was hidden starts coming to light. Step by step, piece by piece, investigators begin reconstructing what happened. The meeting, the setup, the involvement of multiple people, the attempt to hide everything afterward. And suddenly, this isn't a disappearance anymore. It's a case with direction, with intent, with responsibility. Bruno's name moves from suspicion to the center of it all. The media catches wind of it, and once it hits the public, it spreads fast. Headlines everywhere. Fans in shock. People struggling to understand how someone at the peak of his career could be tied to something like this. The pressure becomes overwhelming. And then it happens. Bruno is arrested. No stadium, no cheering crowd, no protection from fame, just reality, cold and unavoidable. The same man who once stood as a symbol of success now stands accused, surrounded by the consequences of his decisions. His career collapses instantly. Everything he built disappears, and the focus shifts completely, not to football, not to his achievements, but to what happened behind the scenes, to Eliza, to the choices that led to this moment, and to the truth that refused to stay hidden.